Much like a card game, the battle between good and evil should never end in a draw. In today's humble opinion, we're taking a look at Sentinels of the Multiverse, the video game. Handelabra Games Incorporated have really outdone themselves with Sentinels of the Multiverse, especially considering that card games and to a greater extent tabletop games generally don't translate very well into the digital medium. I went into the game not really knowing what to expect and came out pleasantly surprised. As you'll soon find out, my experience and indeed the game itself are far from perfect, but I want to reiterate that it's by no means a bad game. In fact, it's the exact kind of experience that I'm looking for with the Humble Monthly, and that's something I haven't been able to say all too frequently. The game is set up in a kind of 5v1 scenario where either you're micromanaging up to 5 heroes or you and up to 4 friends face off against an appropriately balanced villain. Unlike more traditional card games, however, each character in the game has its own set of cards that it will ever be able to play, which I guess means that you can main heroes if you play online. The gist is that you play a card, use a power, and then draw a card. But that can get more complicated than it sounds. The game is actually pretty intricate despite its simplistic presentation, with almost every factor of the game holding some kind of significance. Everything from the type of damage you deal to the number of specific kinds of cards in your trash can mean something in terms of your next move and completely shift the tides of battle. It's like a delicate balance of coordination and consideration with all of the current heroes and villains and environments. Even things that sound like they would be helpful can end up hurting your team completely. For instance, Legacy has a power that increases the damage output of all heroes by 1, and Tachyon has an ongoing ability that deals damage to herself in order to maintain an effect. If Legacy uses his ability, it also increases how much damage Tachyon causes herself. On top of that, there's the environment, which acts as a third and neutral entity. It has its own deck too, and you have to be aware of what's going on there, lest you find yourself powerless to the paparazzi or disarmed by a hostage situation. Honestly, it's probably better to watch a full gameplay or play yourself to fully understand all of the nuanced complexities and interactions, but believe me when I say that it is a well-crafted tabletop game. My biggest issue with the game was my very first experience with it, and I feel like not bringing it up or addressing it might cause a lot of people to lose interest. There is nothing stopping a new player from wandering into a seemingly unfair game and being completely annihilated in a scenario without any resources to stop it. There's no story mode, there's no recommended scenarios that get your feet wet. There are the weekly one-shots if you see that as a new player and think for some reason, oh, pre-made scenarios, but a lot of those are locked behind the paywall of DLC expansion packs. So my dumbass decides to hit randomize and go for the gold. I went up against Citizen Dawn in the Megalopolis, and it was not fucking pretty. What Citizen Dawn apparently does is unload a constant stream of other citizens that give your band of heroes all kinds of hell by dishing out tons of group damage at the end of every turn. The advice that they give you is to take out her citizens as quickly as possible, which is easier fucking said than done when she plays the can't hit no one but me LOL card and the I reduce all of your damage LOL card at the same fucking time. Then while I'm trying to take out the center of attention, she plays a card that lets her heal everyone at the end of every turn. Meanwhile, my whole goddamn team is getting royally fucked up, and to add insult to injury, the environment is spitting out cards like you're not allowed to use powers or no playing cards for you, bucko, which let me tell you isn't what you want when those are literally the only fucking thing you can do against her. I finally managed to get through the 2 defensive assholes, but at that point it was too late and my entire team was all but destroyed. That experience almost turned me off to this game entirely. It was frustrating and annoying, and there was literally nothing that could be done about it. If I hadn't looked to see if other people were having the same issue, I never would have given it a second shot. But apparently, Citizen Dawn is a pretty rough challenge to begin with, and it just so happens to be extraordinarily difficult when coupled with the Megalopolis environment. And it wasn't like I intentionally sought out the hardest challenge in the game. I took the very common path of finishing the tutorial and trying to play the game. That, my friends, is a problem. A pretty big one for new players especially. And it could have easily been circumvented with a recommended path in a story mode that follows an increasingly hard difficulty gradient to help players learn more about the game naturally rather than just diving in. You don't have to hold their hands like the tutorial level, but pose them with challenges they can overcome by learning mechanics, then they can experiment with that fucking randomize button. Despite that, I gave the game a second shot, and I honestly find it much more fun. I appreciate the amount of effort that went into creating navigating it and the underlying mechanics that meld together in a complicated yet approachable way, not to mention the passion you can feel that went into it. Everything from the art to the game text tells you that these guys love making this game and they knew what they were doing. The only thing that hurts it is that it needs direction for new users and perhaps more base content. If you're into comic books, card games, or tabletop experiences with your friends, I'd definitely say to give this game a chance. It's worth at least $10, which is right in line with what you can normally find it for on Steam, $9.99. Sometimes the price will drop as low as $4.94, which is the best time to buy it, especially if you're looking to get the DLC around the same time. Sentinels of the Multiverse is a labor of love that is absolutely brimming with potential, but is more than slightly neutered by the game's ability to go from 0 to 100 with no indication to new players whatsoever. Even with the tutorial, it feels like there isn't a natural progression or flow afterwards, which leaves it at a 5 out of 10 in gameplay. Despite this, it's an excellent addition to the bundle once you're able to make it past its flaws. There's a lot to love about this game, and it's something you might not have discovered for yourself had it not been included. Because of this, it earns a 9 out of 10 in value. With an average of 7 out of 10, it settles into a B.